I found out my fiancée and her best friend were in a homosexual relationship and only saw me as an ATM. So I exposed her to her parents and canceled the wedding. At 28M, met my fiancée 2 years ago. We dated for a while, and she seemed thrilled whenever we planned weekends away or dined at upscale places. I'll admit I was eager to make her happy. Before long, I proposed, and she accepted with an excited squeal, showing off the ring to all her social media followers. For a time, life felt stable. I worked my normal job, she took classes at a local community college and hung out with her friends. We lived together in a small house I'd bought a few years back. She often invited her best friend over, someone she'd grown up with. I didn't think much of it. They'd watch movies, practice hairstyles, that sort of thing. Occasionally, I felt a twinge of odd discomfort when they giggled in hush-hush tones behind closed doors. But I brushed it off as typical best friend banter. Everything shifted abruptly one weekend. I'd been scheduled for a short work trip, leaving on a Thursday and returning Sunday. My fiancée was all smiles, giving me a warm kiss goodbye, urging me to have a safe drive. She even teased, "Don't come back too soon, or I can't finish planning your surprise." I felt touched she was thinking of surprising me. Little did I realize how twisted that surprise would be. As it turned out, the trip ended a day early. My boss rearranged the schedule, so I wrapped up Saturday afternoon and decided to drive back immediately, hoping to catch my fiancée off guard in a good way. The entire ride, I pictured waltzing into the house, her lighting up with happiness. Maybe we'd order takeout and watch a show. That excitement carried me right up to my front door. I unlocked it quietly, intending to tiptoe in for a playful "honey, I'm home" moment. But as soon as I stepped inside, I heard sounds, ones that left no room for innocent interpretation. Confusion bled into alarm. Then I saw them. My fiancée and her best friend entangled on our living room couch, locked in a sexual act so blatant there was no mistaking it. My first instinct was to exclaim, "What the hell is going on?" My fiancée shot upright, a flash of shock in her eyes. Her friend scurried to cover herself. For a split second, no one spoke. Then my fiancée broke the silence with a breathless sneer. "You're back early." That dismissive tone stung worse than the betrayal itself. I demanded an explanation, demanded they put some clothes on, and talk to me like rational adults. Her best friend mumbled something, darted for the guest bathroom to collect herself. My fiancée, though, barely bothered to hide her scorn. She started rattling off how I'd ruined their evening. I was still reeling, my voice shaking as I asked if this had been going on behind my back the entire time. Her reaction was disturbingly casual, as though I were an annoying intruder in my own living room. I tried to compose myself, but anger and disbelief tangled in my gut. I pressed her for answers. Finally, in a fit of exasperation, she stood there, arms folded, and said something that snapped my last thread of composure. "Look, you were just the provider in our relationship. She and I have been together for a while. But you had a house, money, and you were gullible enough not to notice." She shrugged, as if explaining that the sky was blue. Hearing that forced me into an out-of-body moment of shock. All those months where I'd paid for her dinners, covered expenses, showered her with gifts, were apparently just fueling a lie. I scoured the living room for any hint this was some twisted joke, but the scorn on her face was too real. My entire relationship seemed like a farce. Through the haze of betrayal, I remembered there was a CCTV camera discreetly mounted in the far corner of the living room. I'd installed it for security reasons, in case of break-ins when we traveled. It recorded everything, visual and audio. The realization offered me some dark sense of leverage. The heartbreak didn't vanish, but a part of me recognized I had a way to confirm what I'd witnessed, to ensure she couldn't gaslight me or spin a different story. I told her coldly to get her best friend out of my house. We were done. In that moment, she hissed a few insults under her breath, but she must have noticed the severity in my eyes, because she retreated upstairs to gather her friend's belongings. I just stood in the living room, arms crossed, waiting for them to leave, uncertain of what the next step would be. The following few minutes stretched like an eternity. My fiancé's best friend emerged first, face flushed with embarrassment, or perhaps just irritation. She shot me a glare, as if I were intruding on her personal time. Then my fiancé sought her down with a bag, not even bothering to mask her contempt. She paused by the door, looked me square in the eye, and said, "Don't even think about telling anyone. No one will believe your side." Then both of them slipped out, letting the door slam. My mind raced. Her threat rang hollow, especially with the existence of that camera footage. But I was still processing the betrayal. Part of me wanted to crawl into bed and pretend none of this had happened. Another part wanted to track her down and scream at her for everything. Ultimately, I just slumped on the couch, ironically the same spot I'd found them, feeling a swirl of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of grim resolve. Eventually, I called a close buddy to vent, revealing only the barest details. He was floored, cursing my fiancée for her cruelty. That conversation, while short, reminded me I wasn't alone. It also sparked an idea. I needed to protect myself. She might try to spin this narrative. If she told her parents some twisted version, I could become the villain. That's when I decided to invite her parents over to lay everything out at once, along with the evidence. Our wedding was scheduled to happen in just a few months. Imagine if this came out after we tied the knot. I grabbed my phone and dialed her father's number, my voice shaking slightly. I told him, please come to my house as soon as possible. It's urgent, about the wedding and your daughter. There was confusion on the other end, but he agreed to drive over with his wife within the hour. They'd always seemed like decent folks, traditional, somewhat strict. I knew the news would devastate them, but I also felt they deserved to know the truth, given how soon the wedding date loomed. While awaiting their arrival, I queued up the CCTV footage on my laptop. The living room camera had recorded everything. The angles were crystal clear, the audio equally damning. That painful moment of discovering them in the act was right there, ready to be played. My heart pounded at the thought of rewatching it. But I needed it as proof in case my fiancée tried to twist the story. Her parents arrived, looking confused and worried. I ushered them into the living room. They noticed my agitation, my clenched fists, my unsteady breathing. Her mother asked softly if everything was okay. I took a deep breath, motioned for them to sit, and then explained, your daughter betrayed me. She's been in a relationship with her best friend, and she openly admitted she only saw me as an ATM. Her father blanched. Her mother gasped. They looked at each other stunned, as if they couldn't process what I'd said. I could see the immediate reflex in them to deny it. Her mother asked, are you sure? Maybe there's a misunderstanding. That's when I opened my laptop and played a snippet of the footage. The moment I walked in, the words that my fiancé spoke so casually. Her father's expression darkened. He paused the video, perhaps not wanting to see more than necessary, then turned to me, eyes pleading. Where is she? He demanded. We need to confront her. I texted her, telling her to come home. At first, she refused. She claimed she was at a friend's place, likely the same best friend, though I didn't mention it. But once I dropped that her parents were with me, waiting to speak with her, she grew uneasy. She arrived about 30 minutes later, stepping into the house with forced bravado. Her parents immediately stood, confronting her. She tried to brush it off, rolling her eyes. I have no idea what's going on. He's making up insane accusations. Her father's voice shook as he said, he has video evidence. We saw part of it. Explain yourself. My fiancé's face paled. She started stammering excuses. It's just out of context. I was messing around. He's twisting things. I watched her spin a web of denial, claiming there was no homosexual relationship. That was a single silly moment. She even attempted to argue that I'd misunderstood the physical contact. We were just playing around, joking, she declared. Her mother looked torn, while her father's anger bristled beneath the surface. At that point, I calmly asked everyone to sit back down. I reached for my laptop again, ignoring her frantic protests to keep that closed. The truth was necessary, and I was beyond letting her manipulate the situation. I played enough of the footage to shatter any illusions. You could see her and her best friend intimately involved on the couch, their conversation making it clear this wasn't a fleeting joke. Then came the part where she basically declared I was just an ATM. Even her mother gasped, clutching her chest as though her heart might give out. My fiancé's face went through a rapid cycle of shock, fury, then desperation. She tried one last Hail Mary, claiming he's been forging evidence. But her father gave her a look that spoke volumes. He'd seen enough to know who was lying. Stop, he said in a tired, broken voice. This is humiliating. Her mother, eyes brimming with shame, turned to me and apologized. We had no idea. We're so sorry you went through this. Still, I could see my fiancée was panicking at the potential repercussions. She grew aggressive, ranting about how she wouldn't let me ruin her life. She hurled half-baked accusations, saying I was controlling, that I forced her into living under my roof, that she was seeking an emotional outlet with her best friend. I remained calm. Something about seeing the real her so clearly stripped away my illusions. I realized no argument or outburst on her part could overshadow the blatant truth we'd all just witnessed. Her parents demanded she gather her things. They didn't want her staying with me another night. I seized that opportunity to voice my final stance. The wedding is canceled. Consider any arrangement between us null and void. I want you out of my house by tomorrow. She tried to lash out, you can't just throw me out. But her father stepped in, telling her to respect my decision. The tension in the room was suffocating. Sputtering with anger, she spouted entitlements. You owe me for all these months I spent being your fiancé. That was rich, especially after hearing her brand me an ATM. I snorted at the hypocrisy. I don't owe you anything. In fact, you owe me an apology for wasting my time and humiliating me. Her father exhaled a ragged breath, apologizing again for his daughter's behavior. I couldn't help pitying him a little. He clearly had no clue about her double life and manipulations. My fiancée stormed upstairs to pack, slamming doors. Her parents lingered, offering me subdued apologies. They said they'd reimburse me for any deposits related to the wedding that might fall under their portion, though the subject of money was almost too painful to discuss. I planned to pay for the majority, but now I just wanted it all gone. Keep it, I said hollowly. I'm more concerned with my dignity than wedding expenses. After that, they ushered her out of the house, her mother helping lug suitcases to the car. My fiancé glared at me one final time. You think you've won? I'll tell everyone you're a bigot who can't handle a little experiment. I felt a flicker of rage at the cheap shot, but I merely shook my head. I don't care what you say. The footage speaks for itself if it ever comes to that. With that, she and her parents drove off, leaving me standing in the foyer amid a swirl of conflicting emotions, liberation, heartbreak, and a simmering sense of betrayal. For the next few days, I found myself going through the motions. Telling friends the wedding was off, canceling venue bookings, returning gifts with heavy explanations. My phone buzzed non-stop, relatives and friends wanting to know why. I kept the details vague, simply stating we had irreconcilable differences. But word got around quickly, thanks to her meltdown on social media. She posted rants about how I was hateful and inventing stories. Yet a surprising number of people had already heard from mutual acquaintances that she was the unfaithful one. My friend who'd known some inside details helped set the record straight. In the weeks that followed, I heard bits and pieces of my ex-fiancé's fiasco. She and her best friend apparently shacked up someplace else. Rumor had it they were trying to scrape together money to live on, given that her best friend was also unemployed. Meanwhile, my ex's parents had cut off some of their financial support, furious at the deceit and humiliation she caused. On top of that, a few mutual acquaintances told me how the best friend had a reputation for using people. This wasn't the first time she'd latched onto someone financially. I won't pretend I felt purely sympathetic. A flicker of schadenfreude stirred in me, acknowledging that all her manipulative entitlement had backfired. But I was also grieving the life I thought I'd have, a future with a partner I believed loved me. The process of unraveling wedding plans stung. I put my heart into picking out invitations, planning a small honeymoon, even picking out suits. Now all that was dust in the wind. Yet, in many ways, the clarity was worth the pain. Better to find out who she truly was now than after tying my life to hers. I took a few days off work, letting myself mourn and then gradually returning to normal routines. My close friends rallied around me, inviting me for casual get-togethers, ensuring I didn't wallow alone. Her parents contacted me once more, insisting they'd pay back any wedding deposits or fees I'd lost. I appreciated the gesture, but told them I'd handle it. They sounded distraught, apologizing yet again, emphasizing they never raised her to be so callous. I believed them. Sometimes, no matter how decent a family might be, people make selfish choices that defy their upbringing. One day, I received a final text from my ex-fiancée. It read, "I hope you're proud of what you did to me. You destroyed my life." In a calmer mindset, I responded, "No, you destroyed your own life by lying and using people. I simply chose not to be your victim anymore." She never replied. A sense of resolution settled in. Free from the elaborate deceit, I found I could breathe easier. There was no more worry about whether I was overspending to keep her happy, no anxious nights wondering why she and her friend were whispering behind closed doors. It was over. The wedding ring, ironically, sat in a drawer. I considered selling it or returning it for partial credit. Either way, it was just an object now, detached from any meaning. Sometimes, I replay the moment I walked in on them, like a cautionary tale. If I'd been more observant, maybe I would have noticed the red flags sooner. But regret is pointless now. I take solace in the fact that, in the end, I stood up for myself, confronted her with undeniable proof, and refused to be taken advantage of further.